All right, everybody, welcome. This is a special episode of Debate Fuel. Ernest, Derek, we don't have Chris in the building today.
Yeah, no DJ Jeremiah in the building today, man.
Yes, sir.
But we do have a very special guest, man. Thank you so much for joining us. It's John Hendrix of Canal Street Chronicles, man. I've been following you on Twitter and been able to kind of see your contributions, man. I'm so thankful that you're here, man.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, man. Good flight in. It was obviously a little bit hot, because it's cold outside, but I got stuck between two big guys in the airport and, and in my seat. So, but it's cool. I'm good. I'm coming down to earth now.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Welcome so much to the studio. So I guess we'll kick off with, man, can you tell the people kind of about, who you are and what you've been doing for the past few years?
Sure, yeah. So I run a website called Canal Street Chronicles. It's part of the SB Nation blogs. There's about 320, but I'm on the NFL division, managing editor, so I have about a staff of maybe 15, almost 20 writers, roughly, that, bring you Saints content. And it's a little bit different because it has I guess you could say more of a fan perspective, because you can pick up, local copy of the newspaper. You could tune into the TV. You could do a whole bunch of different things, right? But this is it's kind of filtered, I guess you could say, but just a bunch of guys who love football, love their team, and really just focus on bringing content to the readers that, maybe some of the other angles that the other outlets don't take. So, but I enjoyed what I do, definitely.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to get into it. I mean, what everybody cares about, man. And so there's a big game tonight.
Yep.
There's a big game tonight. You're here for it, right?
Yep.
It's Saints versus Falcons. Man, I guess from the... Before, you know what? I want to wait for it before we get into predictions.
Get into it.
Let's go straight into it. All right. How do you feel this game will go tonight?
Well, look, you're facing a short week, right? Obviously, you got Atlanta, who just lost a real physical game to the Vikings, and you got the Saints, who won a real physical game against the Panthers. So you have such a short turnaround, so a lot of the players don't have time to really get as healthy as you can get. A lot of the coaches, you can't really get a lot of the plays and some of the things you want installed for the week, since you're working on just such short notice. That being said, I think this game comes down to being real physical, in the trenches type matchup. I think running between the tackles, running between the guards, physical ground game, I think that's really going to be the biggest difference here. Look, Matt Ryan and the Falcons, they have a strong passing attack. They have two very talented backfield presence with Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman. But at the same time, you can't sleep on the Saints, because they have a strong offense. They have the counterpoint with Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. They have a great passing game. And, of course, you can't make fun of their defense anymore, because their defense is actually doing really well, and that's a big reason why they're 9-3 right now.
Now, injuries will play a huge part in this game tonight. Give us what you feel. How do you feel injuries will impact this game?
Well, look, I think the first thing is Mark Ingram is questionable with a toe injury. I don't read too much into it, because I think he's one of those guys where you had to rest him a little bit, because he's been your workhorse. Yep. I know Kamara's been doing really well, but he's been your workhorse. He's knocking on the door of another 1,000-yard season. I think he'll be good to go. Marshawn Lattimore obviously is going to be the guy that I'm really interested in seeing what happens. He's questionable with an ankle injury. He's missed the past 2 games ever since getting hurt against the Redskins. I really think this is going to come down to how he feels in the warm-ups and pre-games, but expectation is he's supposed to play, but we were told that last week and it didn't happen. But I think they were more cautious, because Cam Newton's passing attack is not what Matt Ryan brings to the table. So I think they were smart in giving him the extra few days to rest, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Here's my not last question. Not even close.
All right. Close. Well, man, this is fun. No.
Yeah, not even close. But Ingram is a bigger running back, and he's never been kind of forced to carry the load. Right? But if he is, if something's wrong with him, he's not playing tonight, and Kamara's forced to carry the load, can he?
Yeah, I'd say absolutely. And I think, you got another running back on the roster with Trey Edmonds. I think that he's proven that he can step in if he needs to in a pinch. But, the thing about when defenses see Mark Ingram on the field, they're going to usually put 7, 8, 9 men in the box to try to contain him, And I think the Saints offense, their offensive line needs to get a lot of credit, because they've been opening up constant holes. But when you see Alvin Kamara, the problem with him is he's such a dual threat that you can't just stack 7, 8, 9 guys in the box, because Drew Brees is going to pick you apart. So, case in point, you see the Panthers or the Rams run only 5 or 6, and Kamara's able to get to that second level with ease, third level, and he's gone once he hits that. So I think if it's Kamara on a permanent basis tonight, he can definitely take the tote the load.
Okay.
What's your prediction on the score?
Look, it's crazy because you got Atlanta, right? And they swept the Saints last year. The Saints swept them the year before. Falcons swept them the year. Typically, I mean, this is 13-7 is what Sean Payton is against the Falcons. They usually get the better of them in Atlanta. I think this will be a lot closer of a game just because it's a divisional clash. I'd say the Saints hang the 28 points. Falcons probably get about 20, 21. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than what people think. My first, now let me tell you, my first prediction, because I was all, let me bow out my chest and stuff, I thought the Saints were going to come in here and win 35-13. But
really?
I've come back down to earth because of that. So I said,
man,
you know what?
Falcons,
I don't want to believe that. I don't want to believe the hype. I'm going to say it's closer than what it normally is.
Now, what's the possibility that the Saints go in and lay an egg tonight?
I mean, I don't see it. But just because I know the Falcons are definitely desperate and they're in desperation mode because right now they're on the outside looking in the playoff race.
Yeah,
right.
Seattle's jumped them and Carolina's ahead of them and all these other 4 teams. I mean, if you tell me that the Rams or Vikings or the Eagles or the Saints are just going to fall flat and lay an egg right now, I don't see it happening. So you got somebody like Green Bay that's on the outside looking in. So Atlanta needs this game more than the Saints do.
Yeah.
But that being said, the Saints are in a spot where they can actually clinch a playoff berth if they win and some other things happen.
Right.
I don't see them just because the way that they've been this whole week. They're hungry off of that Carolina win. They're 3-0 in the division right now. This is a chance to really knock Atlanta out for all intents and purposes. I mean, you put them really in a hole if they can do it. And I think this young team with guys like Kenny Vaccaro, who's been around this rivalry for a long time, a guy like Mike Thomas, who might be new, but he knows how things are going. I mean, they know how this rivalry is with the Falcons. So I think that the chances of them laying an egg are slim to none.
Okay. So here's my question. If you are going to actually, put a nail in the coffin for the Falcons, because you actually could put them in a really bad spot tonight, as you said. If you're going to do that, you're going to have to defend Julio. Let's say Marshawn Lattimore is not playing tonight. How do the Saints defend Julio Jones?
Well, I think, Ken Crawley, when he played him last year, did an excellent job. I mean, he shut Julio Jones down. Now, with that being said, do you have lightning strike twice? Probably not.
Okay.
I think the biggest important part of that is if Marcus Williams plays. Safety help over the top, because I think that's how you're going to have to attack against Julio Jones, because you can leave P.J. Williams. That would be assuming that it's Williams and Crawley if Lattimore can't play.
Okay.
Then you got safety help over the top from Marcus Williams. Williams is probably more of an underrated presence just because, they're as Saints fans, we're used to having Jarris Bird back there, and he was a train wreck. So not to bring up old wounds or anything, but having P.J. Williams, I think he does enough against Mohamed Sanu. I think that focuses, they'll double up on Julio Jones, try to be physical off the line of scrimmage. But, I really want to see him against Marshawn Lattimore.
Really?
I want to. Badly.
is that the one? Because we've seen Marshawn Lattimore do a lot. And I mean, he's been great in coverage, right? For the majority of the season. He shut down Brandon Cooks when we needed him to do that, right? Well, not shut down completely, right? But he had a pretty great game. Yeah. And he's been great, right? But everybody's still kind of waiting a little bit, and probably until this matchup. And I hate the fact that he'll be going into this matchup kind of less than 100%. Right. So I don't know how he'll do against Julio. So let me ask this. Do you think the Saints will commit to the run game tonight?
I think you could see, you have the first 10, 15 plays are usually scripted, when you have a formula, what they base off the game. I think I'll go to the run a little bit early. I think this is a game where if I'm the Falcons, you can't say the Saints are just going to try to ground it out, because that's where Drew Brees is going to just take over, I mean, you got guys like Willie Snead that can tear up the Falcons. You got guys like Ted Ginn that can come in here and do it. Brandon Coleman is kind of, they've been a little bit quieter, but you can't just sell out to stop the Saints in the run. But I think that front seven of the Falcons is a lot better than people give them credit for.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, look what the Vikings did to them last week. So I think the Saints could find some similar success there.
I have a question. How this is actually something that someone put in here as well, but how real do you think the Saints are? Do you actually believe in them going real deep into the playoffs, or do you see them as a first round exit?
I would say, okay, so here's what I'd say to that. So, because I've followed the team, for years now, obviously, and then I've been at training camps, I've been at practices, I've been at the home games, press and stuff, talked to the players. This team mentally is probably as sound as possible right now. They are very strong. And I was most interested to see because I think the best thing to happen to them was losing to the Rams.
Right.
I feel they got humbled there in a way. Maybe not using humbled as the right word, but, I feel like that kind of brought them back down to earth. And me, I was more important, wanting to see how they responded, and they did against the Panthers in a big way. So that proved to me that this team is pretty legit. Now, that being said, I think their biggest strength and biggest favor that they could do for themselves is they got to get a home game and a playoff game setting. So that's where they have to start. Because if they're going on the road, I do have some questions. Because you've gone to Minnesota, you lost. You've gone to Los Angeles, you've lost. And you lose to Atlanta tonight, and then suddenly people are saying, well, you're strong at home, but if you can't get to road games, then that's going to kind of catch up to you. So, and I still don't think this team has hit their perfect game. And you talk to the players, they agree, because they've had turnovers. They've had mental mistakes, errors, penalties, all these things that have cost them. So I don't think we've seen the best from the Saints yet.
So how, in regards to the NFC picture, with, the Eagles sitting high on a perch, how I always say it just to get on this guy's nerves. How close do you actually see them being a threat in the NFC?
I think they're a legit threat. I mean, if I had to look at it, I think the Vikings are the team to beat right now,
and not the Eagles.
Maybe not so, but see, so the Vikings would be the team to beat based on how they've been able to handle business. I mean, look, you bring Case Keenum into the equation. You lost Teddy Bridgewater. You had Sam Bradford. Now you put in Case Keenum. You get that defense behind them. They're really strong. But that being said, the Eagles are very well coached. They have some strong weapons on them. I mean, Carson Wentz, Alshon Jeffrey. I mean, Jay Ajayi. I mean, how would you expect to get him to I think their thing now is they need their defense to step up. I don't have problems or questions about their offense. I feel like their defense is where it's really going to have to step up going forward. So
I agree.
That's what I would say. And
I think Sunday showed a little bit of that. But honestly, I think a lot of penalties hit us on Sunday too.
Yep.
Penalties and fumbles.
And you're playing in Seattle.
Yeah.
That's a hard place to play.
Yeah,
penalties, fumbles, and the Seahawks, man. It got tough.
Yeah. Now, you can very well easily see. You could see. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a rematch and then have Seattle go to Philadelphia to open the playoffs. I would kind of welcome seeing something like that just because I feel, the Eagles are, I'd say they're better on the road. But, I mean, they're still a strong team, so you can't discredit. I know some people have been throwing out the saying they haven't played anybody, which I don't disagree because, your record's your record. And if you in the past, maybe those Eagle teams – couldn't have won those easy games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like the Saints. In the past, any type of favors they were given, they couldn't win those easy games.
Never capitalize on it.
Just how it is. They're very well put together.
And I would say to that we've lost against the Chiefs and against Seattle now. Early in the season, the Chiefs actually looked like a real legit team.
They did.
Legit.
Last year's Vikings. That's what they look like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now they're in the So I think it's a tight race. I think the Eagles, no particular order, but I think the Eagles, Saints, and Vikings are the top of the NFC.
I was going to take a shot there at the Falcons too, because the 2013 Falcons started 5-0 and
they did.
8-8.
Yeah. And then you saw what
happened. But I got it in, so it's cool.
28-3.
So let me ask this: you talked earlier about Willie Snead and about his involvement in the passing game, and you've been watching, and I've been watching, and the world's been watching, right? And they know Willie Snead has been absent. What happened to Willie?
Look,
from a fantasy standpoint, I want to know
yeah, I know. I'm right there with you because I had him in a dynasty league, and I'm like, what happened, Willie? Look, this is just a classic case because, right, he's coming in, he was ready to take the number 2 job. You got the DUI off the field incident, which really kind of messed everything up because, before that, the Saints were talking about getting him a long-term contract, and I think from a mental perspective, you kind of get brought back down to earth, right? Because you're like, man, now I'm the number 2 wide receiver. I'm going in there. I'm going to look at getting my long-term contract. Then something bad happens.
Yeah.
Ted Ginn starts getting more reps. Ted Ginn looks good. Brandon Coleman looks good. Willie Snead, he's got the ankle injury or, he's battling the injuries and stuff. Hard to get on the field. But for me, I think, and this is what stinks about losing Kobe Fleener, I think those were 2 weapons they could save and really get more deeper into the playoffs when they get into playoffs because people will say, oh, you've got Kamara, Ingram, we got to get Michael Thomas and Ted Ginn. we don't worry about this Willie Snead, and that's where Sean Payton's like, oh, Willie Snead, I got you. We're gonna get you, you know.
Right.
So I don't make too much of it. I mean, look, he's a very strong guy. He's very faith based. I mean, look, he knows what he did wrong.
Gotcha.
And I really would bet on him to rebound in a big way.
Okay. Now in the off season, we talked on our way here, right? We was talking about Kamara, right? And I was talking to him. We actually was sitting right here, and I looked at him, and he was like, is there anybody you should look out for? Any sleepers? And I was like, Alvin Kamara, right? You need to pay attention to this guy. He's going to be great. And he said, who? And I said Kamara. I know
Let's
it's Kamara.
not act as if the Saints were someone that you should have been paying attention to. Coming into the season, we never thought they were going to be a team to
but
pay
I
attention to.
told you.
I
right?
know what you said.
I tried to
but
tell everybody.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. But you said you saw it coming, right?
Well, yeah, because I mean, you look at how seeing him in camp and just seeing how he's just so smart. That's the biggest thing because the Saints offense is not easy to pick up. I mean, they got so many different looks and calls and audibles and all this stuff, right? But no matter what, every single day we were at practice, there's something that one play, a couple plays that Alvin Kamara just did that was like, man, this guy could be really something special. And, you know, you look at him. For me, the comparisons came in. I'm like, man, he reminds me a little bit of Darren Sproles, a little bit of Reggie Bush. He's got a little bit of Pierre Thomas in him. I can even see a little bit of Deuce McAllister a little bit. And some people think I'm crazy, but, you know, look at that hit that he took against the Panthers.
Yeah.
And that's classic Deuce. Bob, and then come right back. But, you know, his emergence and his play is what made Adrian Peterson expendable. I mean, it was really, that's what happened. They expected Kamara to be pretty good. They didn't expect him to be great. And that's what he's been for this team.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. Being so close to the Saints organization, what were your thoughts on the whole Adrian Peterson scenario?
I wasn't shocked, totally shocked, just because I figured, you know, maybe they could give Adrian Peterson some more looks because every time he was in there, everybody knew he was going to run the ball.
Yeah.
So it's like once you did that, it's like you're not giving him a chance to really do anything in the offense. But look, I think they made the best possible move because Adrian Peterson, you looked at him during camp, and physically the guy is put together. He's built like a tank. I mean, he doesn't show any signs of slowing down. He is strong, and you know, they made the best move possible, train him to somebody that maybe you could have a starting role, and Arizona became that place. And look, his first game, he did really well, and then he's kind of just faded back down. But
yeah, he tried to trade me.
But look, Peterson, he's a great one. I mean, he even came back to the Saints team during the bye week just to check in on the guys.
Oh, he did?
Really? Yeah, and his son is playing flag football with Drew Brees down in New Orleans. So, came back for the championship games and stuff. So, I mean, it was more about there was no manufactured, there was no drama that, you know, Monday Night Football wanted to draw out and stuff. Peterson was loved, and, you know, it just wasn't a good fit.
Right.
Yeah. So, all right, I have to ask this because I don't want to be, you know, completely one-sided.
Sure.
You know, I could be guilty of it, but I don't want to, right? So, if the Falcons do pull out the win tonight, at the end of the day, why would they have won?
I think it's because they're going to win the turnover battle.
Okay.
First and foremost, and I think it'd be the Saints lay an egg. You know, I just really feel that coming into this game, and I was on the plane, I've heard it, I've seen reports all day. I think this is going to be a really Saints heavy game, kind of almost like a home game, right? Now, I mean, Saints fans travel well, but you know, at the end of it all, if Matt Ryan can find the success, because he's a true pocket passer. I mean, he goes through his reads, his progressions and stuff, so he's not going to have a problem finding the open person. At the same time, I think the Saints are going to beat themselves if that were to happen, because I think the Saints are the stronger team. The Falcons are reeling right now, and this is a game where, look, you need your fans, and unfortunately, the fan support's been kind of a little bit relaxed. Let's just call it for was.
That's Atlanta. That's
look,
Atlanta. As soon as they fizzle out, then the fans do too.
I was here, a year or 2 years ago. I went to the airport, and or even just around the city and stuff. I stayed here for 2 weeks, and I didn't see like one Falcons shirt or jersey or anything. I'm like, what are y'all doing?
Hey,
as soon as they get hot, that's when you see it.
When they got hot, as soon as they got hot, it was all kind of Falcons coming out of the woodwork. They say rise up, and they actually do.
That's right. They rose up from the grave. The bandwagon.
Hey, yeah, you should have been here the day after the Super Bowl.
True.
Oh, that was fun.
Ghost town.
Yeah. Usually driving through Atlanta, it's at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
It's a lot of traffic. Man, I got through there in about 5 minutes.
Oh wow, yeah, that
was
doesn't
beautiful.
happen. Woo.
Yeah,
because I went down. Like I see, I was staying. I don't remember where exactly, but I was coming in and going to the aquarium stuff. And I had taken my son and stuff, and it took us forever to get there. But if you went there 5 minutes, I wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Ghost town. Some people just left their cars.
Yeah.
Like,
Call it out of work.
Yeah,
I'm
the
serious.
best was the Atlanta store pulling all the championship merchandise. I'm like, man. And you know what?
Yeah,
it's
those shirts
crazy
are in
because
third
you
world
know
countries now.
had right. Don't count your chickens before you hatch because the Chiefs are guilty of doing that. They put out playoff tickets.
Yeah.
Way before. Now look at them. You don't do that. You don't do that. I mean, you don't do that stuff. Anything can happen.
yeah. I guess they wanted to be ready. You know what I mean?
I guess.
Yeah,
That's horrible.
That's not happening, man.
So actually, the crazy part is we used to make a lot of these jokes. Now these, we're joking, but we used to make a lot of jokes about the Saints defense. Like it used to be one of the funniest
Rightfully
punchlines,
so.
ever.
Yeah.
What was the key to this defensive turnaround? Like it seemed like it just happened, but I know that there were points that were made. Something happened. So what were the keys to that?
It all started with getting Rob Ryan out the door, right? So when Dennis Allen came back into the picture, he took on the senior defensive assistant role.
That was
we
subtle.
kind of knew what we wanted to see out of that. Rob Ryan's defense was too complex, too difficult. He couldn't do basic math to get 12 people on, getting 12 people on the field when you need 11, stuff like that. But I feel like that he started that rebuild in 2015. Now, they didn't have the people to pull it off. And the next season, they got some bits and pieces to improve a little bit. They still didn't have all the personnel, and then they took a real big hit in their cornerback depth. I mean, they were down to 4 or 5, signing street free agents, B.W. Webb, Sterling Moore, which Moore did a great job.
He's still with us, right?
More. And so they did a good job, but they still didn't have, like, the pass rusher opposite of Cam Jordan and stuff. And, going after getting that top corner allows Dennis Allen, and getting somebody like A.J. Klein, Alex Okafor is now injured. Just so many pieces. They're stacked better in the depth department, and Allen runs a really aggressive scheme. I mean, the Saints are the most heavy blitzed team in the NFL right now. So it just supports everything that he does when you have such people on the back line that can support your front line for sure.
So we've talked about this, especially during the offseason into the coming into this season. We were actually talking about how bad the Saints were. What do you?
I mean, it's real. It's real.
They were horrible, and I was telling him not to get his hopes up and stuff like that because
You told me to boycott the NFL this year.
No, I told him to boycott the Saints. I said boycott the Saints,
sticky territory,
not
there,
the NFL. So, what do you attribute to being the best factor in their success right now?
I think it's they got the wake up call, right? I think it started with Sean Payton.
Because he was on his way out the door, right?
I mean, he's on the hot seat, I guess, if you will. Let's call it for what it was. And I think there was pressure there to get rid of some of his defensive guys or some of his long-term coaches. So they got rid of Bill Johnson. They got rid of Greg McMahon. They got rid of Joe Vitt. I mean, and then he brought in some new blood, right? And Ryan Nielsen's the D-line coach. He was from NC State. They brought back some familiar faces like Curtis Johnson to do the wide receivers. Look, they did some good things, getting Aaron Glenn some help. They got Lee Torrance to help with the D-backs, and they brought in Mike Nolan to do the linebackers. So I think that's where it started. I think with the free agency, they didn't go for the flashiest, sexiest free agents. They went for the right ones. And then they stockpiled it on with the draft because this is Jeff Ireland's second year, and this is back-to-back draft classes that have been absolutely outstanding. I mean, they're getting it from not only the draft class, but the undrafted guys. And the second and third year players are starting to make more of a leap. And I think that's just been the biggest success, and it takes so much pressure off of Drew Brees. And, dare you say, the Saints are a younger team now, and I think they're set up, they have one more good draft. They're set up for a franchise, actually.
Yeah. So moving into this coming offseason, Drew Brees is in his final year of his contract, correct? Mm-hmm. And so how do you see that going?
So the thing is with the Drew Brees contract, so technically they could still pull off an extension. They could do something to make it work. But as of right now, Drew Brees will become a free agent, once free agency starts. The Saints will still owe him some money. Now, if you talk to Drew Brees, he hasn't and ever will talk about a contract during the season. That's all he's focused on because that's Drew Brees.
Right.
He just, and that's good. I mean, I think that's the right mentality. I look at some of the money that somebody like Matt Stafford's getting, or Matt Ryan's, all these other guys that are getting these contracts, right?
Carr.
I don't know what his number will be, but if Saints are winning and he feels a threat, that they got a really good chance and they've taken some, things off of his plate. I don't see it as an issue of him coming back. I just don't know what the money will look like because I think they'll find a sweet spot, a good spot for him. And Drew Brees has got endorsement deals out the what. I mean, he's got Jimmy John's, he's got Advocare. I mean, NyQuil, Wrangler. I mean, he's even starting what was it, a video company or something? I forgot what it was. Something crazy or something like that. But I don't see it as a problem, but obviously it's not going to be something they're going to talk about until we get there.
Yeah, because his age factors into it as well.
Sure.
So how do you think that's going to be an issue moving forward? Because he thinks he can play as long as Tom Brady believes he can play.
I think he can play long. See, now, here's the thing. Let's just be real because, in my area, you got to take some of the glasses off, if you will.
True.
Yeah.
There's been some throws he's missed.
Yeah.
There's been some underthrows. There's been some throws at the feet. There's been some times where he's not seeing the right receiver, not having the right communication. Now, those are things that you hope to get cleaned up. But still, perfect example where you see vintage Drew Brees is that throw down the sideline to Michael Thomas against the Panthers last week. That was the perfect throw and the perfect catch.
Right.
That's still the Brees. So he may not be as dominant as he once was, but I still think he's been effective. And I think the Saints have the right approach with the 1-2 punch of Ingram and Kamara.
Right.
So as long as he has that, I think he could play a little bit longer for sure.
Now, is that lack of dominance really because the Saints have lost so many really key offensive weapons, I guess, in an effort to fix their defense, right? And so losing Cooks, losing Jimmy Graham over the course of, some time, I mean, just like multiple weapons over and over again, they've just gotten rid of these weapons. And do you feel like that, for some reason, has kind of contributed to what we're seeing?
Well, I think Cooks' his role has been filled by Ted Ginn a little bit more, maybe not as much as Cooks did when he was here. And Jimmy Graham, I think they saw something in Kobe Fleener, but Fleener's more of a vertical and seam threat, and now you don't have him. So you got to work with, Michael Hooman. I'm not even pronouncing his name. Hooman is what we're going to just say there. And Josh Hill. And Josh Hill's, he's a good receiver, but he's human. He's fumbled last week. That wasn't a good look. So I think some of the big play elements they can get from guys like Tommy Lee Lewis, right? Or Alvin Kamara's helping with that. I just think there's some ways to compensate for that. But if they still had a Jimmy Graham and playing in his prime in this offense right now, or they had a Brandon Cooks playing in this offense, I think it would look totally different.
Or even a Ben Watson, right?
Yeah, Ben Watson was a good one. Yeah, a lot of people sleep on him. So
Malcolm Jenkins.
No, I mean I think
don't
we're
go
okay
there.
with him.
Don't go there, man.
Yeah,
That's one player, and you make that whiff and go for Jarius Byrd, and you could have kept Malcolm Jenkins and been okay.
Yeah.
And then ever since he's been over there, he's just been like
Says, look at me.
I'm loving it, man. Is there anybody in the in college that you see from a quarterback position that you would like to target?
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah,
Number one answer.
I figured.
You think so?
Oh, man. I don't know if it's going to be realistic. I doubt it's even realistic. But, look, this guy has got – I mean, he's drawing the Drew Brees comparisons, right, and already. But just seeing the way he carries himself, I feel like it's the right Johnny Manziel, if that makes sense. He doesn't have –
That's a good comparison.
He's what Johnny Manziel was supposed to be on the field.
Yeah.
But actually he was able to play football. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that would be my first person off the cuff. I mean, you got free agency. A guy like Tyrod Taylor's kind of interesting to me. Lamar Jackson's even interesting to me.
This is going to be a good free agency class. of quarterbbacks.
Absolutely. And look,
Eli Manning is going to be on the table.
I mean, I think there's some ways they could look at it, but they have somebody like Taysom Hill that's on the roster. He's playing special teams. He's the third quarterback playing special teams. They made jokes saying, "Hey, he's the quarterback of the future," which obviously Sean Payton downplays. But at the same time, you get some type of development in a guy like that, and suddenly you might have something there. They tried it with Garrett Grayson. It didn't work.
No.
So.
Right.
Did you see the way Sean Payton was smiling when Hill made that tackle and came back?
Yeah. It was. I'll never forget because SB Nation and Network we worked for, they tweeted out a picture of Peyton, and then it's SpongeBob with the same smile. So I was like, "Oh man, that's perfect. That's the way you capture it right there."
Man, I've never seen a smile like that from Sean Payton.
It's been a while, man. He hadn't had too much to smile about, that's for sure. So
not at all.
It's good to see it.
So let me ask you this question. Now I've kind of, done my research on you, and I know that, you're, I guess, an encyclopedia of sorts, right?
Somewhat.
All right. So
my knowledge might be a little rusty now, but we'll see.
So here's what we'll do, right? I just want to, play a small game. Which Saints team of the past does this current Saints team remind you most of,
I was gonna
right?
ask about that.
So we have, and I'll give you just some choices. 06, right? So you remember that whole new Bush year, right?
Yep.
And so Drew was fresh, Bush was fresh. That whole thing was kind of there. 09, right? Kind of offensive explosion,
Right.
Super Bowl year, right? 11, right? The Jimmy Graham Sproles situation, or more like 13 when we first get Rob Ryan.
I honestly would say it's reminiscent some of 09, but some of 2010 too.
Okay.
'Cause, they didn't. I mean, they made the playoffs, but I think that given how they had to have the next men up mentality, some deficiencies on defense, but I think between those two, that's where they're at. But you can look back at all those great Saints teams over the past decade and say, okay, here's a little bit of the 13 team because of the defense doing so well. Here's a little bit of the 11 because you've got some of the explosive elements to it, but maybe not as much as you used to. I really would say 09 is where they had, that backfield hydra, if you will. They had, McAllister, well, not really exactly. They had Peter Thomas, Bush, all those, and Mike Bell. Bell was the bell cow.
I remember Bell,
will,
yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of where they more lie, but I think they're still a strong team. And look, when it's all said and done, hopefully we can say, this was the 2009 Saints to repeat what they were able to do that season.
So I think the one thing that will be missing from this team before I put them in that category, right, would be I guess for me, remember in 09,
Darren Sharper, all those,
Darren Sharper.
That is the missing thing.
I mean, because having a Darren Sharper was basically like if you put the ball in the air, it may get picked. You know what I mean? And I love the whole turnover, photo that they're doing. Everybody in the NFL stealing from them right now.
Right, yeah.
Right.
But
right.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. Everybody. Right. But I feel like this defense has a personality, right? But they're still not at that point where they're just picking off almost everything in the sky.
Right.
And so I'm waiting for that one player who's like a turnover machine that we can see that a ton of.
It's crazy you mention that because a guy like A.J. Klein comes to mind because he's had probably 4 or 5 dropped interceptions this year. And that's why he plays linebacker, right?
Absolutely.
Marcus Williams, I think he's been a real good surprise for this team. I think they've got some of the pieces there, but, to say we don't have that Darren Sharper guy, that's one thing. But at the same time, that 09 defense, they made the stops when it counted the most. And that's kind of what this defense is doing now. They gave up a lot of yards, still a lot, and a lot of times they were playing from behind. But, I think when you compare the 09 and this year's team, that's what stands out is the defense has been able to make those stops and really help out, the Saints team overall.
Okay.
So I want to ask both of you a question. As a reporter and as a fan, do you actually believe in this team?
I'll take it, and I'll say, yeah, definitely. Just because, going back to training camp, preseason and all that, it's just something different about this team. And, whether you can put your finger on it, it just had a different feel, look to it. You just, and especially after it started 0-2, you're thinking, good grief, here goes again. Oh, here comes all the 7-9 Falcons fans. Oh, that's all you are, 7-9ers, all this craziness. And you're thinking, man, we're buckle up. It's going to be a long season. But ever since that Panthers game, that's where it really turned the corner. And that's where it showed me that this team's not going to stay and lay down and play dead. They got the right guys. I think that they were able to do a lot of good things, Maybe they had a few gifts along the way playing without Aaron Rodgers or things like that, which you can't ignore.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I said earlier, those type of games, they don't win the past 3 years when they go 7-9. So, I think they've got a much better makeup, and they've got the swagger, as I like to say, about them right now.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I would piggyback off that. Normally, you would have Hundley, coming out party against an old Saints defense, right?
Yeah.
Like
Sam Bradford looked like Joe Montana in the
right,
first game.
Man.
Could do no wrong.
And watching that first game, it was so disheartening because I went to training camp. You know what I mean? I drove down there when it had the big opening at I think it was Tulane Stadium, right?
Yep.
And I went and I watched, and I'm like, you know what? There may be some hope, right? I get live on Periscope. I was live on Facebook, and I'm like, guys, check out the Saints team. I saw Adrian Peterson signing autographs and stuff like that. I'm like, we're gonna be all right. You know what I mean? at the same time, I was kind of skeptical because I thought about Kamara and I believed in him, but I was still kind of worried if he had enough speed to kind of carry that satellite back role.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, the Darren Sproles is a home run hitter. Reggie Bush was a home run hitter. I didn't really know if Kamara was a home run hitter, right? That was kind of where my first kind of disbelief came. However, after watching the Panthers game, I got off my, soapbox, right? Because after they lost the first two, man, I came in here, right here. And I went off.
Oh, yeah.
I went off.
It was. Rightfully so.
I couldn't be consoled, right?
Like, that week 2 game, I was there against the Patriots. Man, it was painful to sit through. I'm like, good grief, how many yards are they going to give up in the first half? And I'm like, yeah, it was bad.
Tom dropped 30 before halftime.
Oh, Tom was vintage Tom. That was like, man. See, but that's the thing is, if Tom can do that, then Drew Brees still can do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's when people say, is he washed up? Is he this and that? No. He has one of those games, and you can't say that anymore.
So I'm still of this point where I'm so close to believing, man. I want to believe. I'm skeptical. But the funny part is
that's the mood, though. I'm sorry not to cut you off, but I think that's the mood is that the fans are waiting for the old Saints to show up.
Right.
I think that's been it all season, and week after week they've proven that. Look, that's not happening, and outside, I mean, the Rams loss, it could have been a lot worse. The offense really forgot to get off the plane on that game. But, other than that, I mean, every game they've been able to fight back. I mean, you would have told me that they went against Washington. I mean, being there and witnessing it, that dome was emptied out. It was practically emptied out, and the fans that were there in the last 6 minutes were louder there than the fans were at the whole stands in the game. But it's just crazy because you just don't know, and that's the element that this team has brought.
Junior Gillette mentioned that. Right?
Oh, of course. He was too happy about his 2 quarterback hurries and his 1 quarterback hit. The dude hadn't notched the sack all season and stuff, but, he's happy about it.
Yeah, he definitely mentioned how the whole stadium was cleared out, right, during that time.
And he still lost.
Yeah. And I don't know how that happened.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
I was sat there and just played because I sat there and a true story. I sat there because this is my first year going to actually the games and covering them and stuff like that. And I sat there. I was like, man, you know how awesome it would be just to see a comeback. It's like just one time for you, boy.
Just
and that's
like
what
09.
I'm thinking. I'm like, man, and I'm sitting there and they get the touchdown. Like, all right, well they could do this, and then they get the other one, they tie it up, and like, oh man, the Redskins got time though, so they can march down the field. Defense comes back, then Saints get it overtime after they stop the Redskins. I'm like, oh, this is it. This is it. So it was good.
I did not expect that comeback, man. I thought
nobody would have. They had like a 0.1%. Well, I think the Falcons still had better probability than they did, but but they didn't have as much of a probability to come back in that game.
Man,
man.
So here's one of the things that still kind of plagues me. So is it Brandon Coleman? If you watched him during training camp, like you were there during training camp and you were able to see it, you saw his explosive plays. It was like over and over and over again. It was like every day, like he's coming, right? I'm like expecting something crazy. How do you think he's had, I guess, somewhat of a letdown throughout the season, or do you think he's just found a spot to contribute well?
I think he's found the spot to contribute well because I think this is the thing is when you see these reports and stuff that come out during training camps, this X player and Y player, they could be great. Like Corey Fuller was the guy who started off training camp hot, just couldn't maintain and he couldn't do it. Arthur Millette, he looked really good. He just couldn't put it together and he couldn't do enough to make the final 53.
Yeah.
Now they brought him on the practice squad, but you got those guys all the time that do that and just can't put it together in a game for whatever reason, or they just don't look that great. But that being said, I think Coleman has found his groove. He's a better run blocker than people give him credit for.
Phenomenal run blocker.
He's one of those guys where you can get the ball to him in space. You just don't ask him to outrun somebody because he'll trip over his own feet.
Yeah.
But, I think he's a valuable asset. He's found his niche with the Saints. I think that when they call upon his number, it's not really more of a cringeworthy like it used to be a couple years ago. So, and I think that's a tribute to Curtis Johnson coming back, the biggest beneficiary there.
That's a big deal.
Yep.
When Curtis Johnson came back, that was huge because I knew the wide receiver play would increase.
Well, and I'll tell you, being at camp, Curtis Johnson, he got after his wide receivers a lot. I mean, you drop the ball, you do something stupid, Curtis Johnson will make you hear about it.
Really?
Oh yeah. It was interesting times. I can't repeat all the stuff he said out there, but you could about fill in the blanks and you'll know what happened there. But it was good. He held those guys accountable, and I think it makes them better receivers. Obviously, when you do that.
All right, let me ask you this, man. Probability of a Super Bowl.
Man, I tell you, like I said, Minnesota's the team to beat.
Okay.
I think the Saints have to get into at least the second spot in the NFC playoffs.
In order to have a chance.
I think that's their best point because if they're going to have to go on the road to play like an Eagles team, play a Rams team, play somebody else, I just feel like their strength is going to come from playing at home. Not the fact about elements up in Philadelphia because they can handle that. But I just feel like if you can get some of that home advantage like they had in 2009, I think that's the best way that they can go about and really deliver because the fan base is about as high on them right now as it's been, I don't know, since 2013 when they were in the playoffs.
They're crazy right now.
A lot of them went out. I mean, let's call for what it is. Some of them fans skipped out too, but
It's
now they're back.
Division. You see that happens a lot. With
It
the
happens. I mean, it
NFC
wasn't as
South.
bad probably as Carolina, and then Carolina had their
Yeah.
bandwagon rush, and then
Yeah.
Atlanta had their bandwagon rush. But you know what? I mean, that's football. You have that right to cheer for whoever you want. Just don't go up against somebody who's been a fan longer than you, or who's going to call you out for it when you had like a Panthers jersey on the week before. So
Right,
like, come on,
right.
bro, what are you doing?
Yeah, because I've seen a few Wentz jerseys on people that were laughing when we were doing the whole Chip Kelly era. So.
Yeah, impressed me. Put a Reggie White jersey on. I'll be happy.
Right. yeah.
I'll be impressed then.
So if they actually get to the Super Bowl, let's say they face the Patriots.
That'd be interesting because the
Or
first
Steelers.
game. I mean, look,
I actually don't think that the Patriots get out.
the AFC is pretty weak this year. I'll say that. I think I like Kansas City for a while until they decided to do a disappearing act, and I still think however you slice it, New England's probably the team to beat. Pittsburgh, if they can keep going on, I mean, losing Ryan Shazier is huge.
Was huge. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Huge. But still, it's Mike Tomlin. I mean, he does his thing, and you look across some of the other ones. Jacksonville is a sleeper team. I want to see what they can do against in the playoffs.
Jacksonville.
But their defense is so strong.
It's not their defense. It's the quarterback.
Blake Bortles, right? Yeah, because
trust me.
No,
listen,
you're right.
Listen,
You're right.
If they got, which I know it's not going to happen, but if it was a Kaepernick or even somehow Eli Manning, then I would actually believe in the.
I'd say that they could face
Jacksonville.
I could say they face New England in the championship. I would have booked it. I would have told you.
Yeah.
But right now, I mean, Leonard Fournette. I mean, he's a superhuman, and he's only going to carry him so far. They're going to have to get Bortles to do more for him if they're going to want to get anywhere in the playoffs.
I stopped believing in Bortles about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Was that when he didn't know when the line of scrimmage was and stuff too?
Yeah.
Or didn't know what a forward pass was, like Aaron Brooks.
Yeah.
Man, I remember those Aaron Brooks years, man.
Yeah.
Just turn
Good
around
for
and
a
throw the other
while.
way.
Hurt, man.
So, all right. So, we're going to ask you just a few rapid fires, right? Really quick. And actually, I asked both, right? Let's go for let's go for like 3, right? First thing comes to your mind. First player comes to your mind, right? Rookie of the year.
Alvin Kamara.
I'll say Kamara.
Okay. MVP.
Right now, I'd say it's Carson Wentz.
Okay.
Well, you already know I'm going to say Carson Wentz, bro. Statistically, I got him there, but I mean, just because I'm a fan as well, it's not. I'm not even going to say it because of a biased opinion, though.
No, you're okay. I said it first, so you're good.
Yeah, but the way he's looked, to me, he's the most improved player of the year too.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Jared Goff is probably my most improved player of the year.
I buy some of that.
Okay. I forgot about that. Yeah, Jared Goff. Yeah.
Who's your most improved player of the year?
Outside of Goff, man, I'm trying to think of anybody else that could. I think you have to go with Goff because McVay's come in with that coaching staff, and they've just completely changed that. I mean, you look at the NFC, 4 teams that weren't in the playoffs last year are the top in the NFC right now. That says something about coaching and your players. So
right.
And a lot of that doesn't happen unless you get good quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll say Goff too. I would have said Wentz, but I forgot about Goff. Yeah, I'll say Goff.
Okay. Defensive player of the year.
Ooh.
That's interesting. I might have to go Calais Campbell right now.
Wow. Okay.
Down in Jacksonville, just the way he's playing. Outside of that, man, I'm trying to think who else. Because it's so obvious to go say, hey, it's Luke Kuechly or, J.J. Watt, even though he's not playing. Those are your obvious choices.
Yeah.
What about Bobby Wagner?
Wagner, I think he's doing a good job. Seattle, I wouldn't want to play Seattle in the playoffs ever,
Yeah.
Especially if I have to go up there. Now, if they come to you, then I feel better about that. But Wagner's consistently been a strong guy. Just trying to think of anybody else. Because now I'm just going blank. Good thing it's rapid fire, though.
I would go. I'll probably go with DeMarcus Lawrence. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah, for the Cowboys, yes.
Yeah,
he's been.
He's leading. I think he was leading the league in sacks or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And watching him play, he's been extremely dominant to me this year. Now the Cowboys haven't done anything,
and I'm loving how the Cowboys haven't done anything.
Yeah, they haven't done anything.
Oh, that's crazy talk coming from an Eagles fan.
I mean, only because of Elliott, right? Because I feel like if Elliott was around,
I actually don't think that it would be too much different.
I think a lot of people,
defensively, they are horrible.
I think there's so many people that called them. A lot of people called that they were going to go down. I was one of them. I said the Cowboys are going to fall on their face.
I've been saying they were going to be at the very most the second or third in the NFC East, with following the Eagles. That's what I was saying going into the season. But I didn't. Of course, he didn't think that Ezekiel Elliott was going to be suspended. But
sure.
I was saying that even with Ezekiel Elliott being on the field.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who represents the AFC in the Super Bowl?
I think your default answer is New England, but you know what? I think somebody can dethrone them this year. So if I had to choose, I guess give me Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I don't see it from Jacksonville yet.
I've been saying Pennsylvania Super Bowl.
A Pennsylvania Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Because both teams have been very hot over the course of the season. So I would actually go with just a Pennsylvania Super Bowl.
Okay. If I had to, I'd go Patriots.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
That's the easiest and safest answer there, for sure.
And I've seen Tom Brady take a lot of hits, so I've had a lot of questions about the offensive line, in total. But because he's had a lack of weapons, Chris Hogan's been out, Edelman's been out, stuff like that. I think somebody will
figure him out.
Somebody
will get him
Yeah.
when it needed the most.
Yeah.
I mean, Falcons did last year, but then they forgot to stop playing
until the second half. Yeah.
and I didn't give a I guess a answer for my MVP, and mine would be at this point Russell Wilson.
All right, that's a good pick. Yeah. Okay. I think part of their resurgence in Seattle,
he's
they were
been
one
the
of those,
most dominant player.
He does it with his feet, and he does it through the air, and that's really something right now in today's NFL. Imagine if Colin Kaepernick was playing right now. So,
do you ever? Because I personally don't ever see him coming back.
I don't. I think he's been blacklisted.
Yeah,
blackballed, blacklisted, whatever you want to call it, and I don't think it's right.
Blacked out.
Yeah,
all that. No, seriously, because I mean, we haven't. There's been too many openings.
Way too many.
Too many chances for him to get in.
Yeah, and to see that Blake Bortles still has a job.
Yeah.
I think the biggest...
Or even Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah.
Example.
I think my biggest insult was like when Houston signed a guy that hadn't played football in like over a year or something. Second or third string. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
It's
you can't tell me this guy isn't better than who you have. So.
Yeah.
Houston's actually wasting an entire season with this.
They are. Yeah.
Because they have an opportunity right now, right? Because Deshaun Watson goes down, you have a big opportunity to bring in Colin Kaepernick, right? And then right the ship again.
But that's what I was saying. I wanted them to get him not just because of his ability to still be able to play, but he would have been a great mentor to Deshaun Jackson. I was saying that before
Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jesus.
No, you're good.
He has Eagles on the brain.
Yeah, Deshaun Watson would have learned a lot from Kaepernick. So I wanted to see that before the season started. But yeah, I agree with you. I think they're wasting. They're throwing this season.
But I mean, you heard their owner. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm a Trump supporter, so
yeah,
it's no surprise.
All right. All right, so man, thank you so much for joining us. Dude, this has been incredible. Can you tell everybody out there, people who are listening to the podcast, can you tell them where they can reach you, where they can get your content, where they can get in contact with you?
Yeah. Just go to our website, Canal Street Chronicles. Exactly how it sounds, and my handle is John J. Hendrix. Exactly how it sounds, Hendrix, just like Jimmy. I play a little guitar, but I'm not nearly as influenced like he was. But
I have one. I got one for Christmas last year.
I don't play. I dabble. Let me just put it that way.
Okay.
But at any rate, follow me on Twitter. Always engage. We talk and ask whatever. I mean, whatever. Come with your opinion and stuff. I might try to prove you wrong, but again, I might try to hear you out a little bit too. But do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, sir.
Any final feel for you?
Man, I don't know. You know what? I'll say this. Just because I'm outside observer, I really just want to see a good game tonight.
That's what you want?
I just really want to see a good game. Not only that, but I like the pettiness that is involved with this rivalry. So I really want to see the Falcons lose. So I need the Saints to win this one, just because I want to see the Falcons lose and some people crying. And
Yeah,
man.
see Ryan come in here and really embarrassed.
Well, look,
Yeah.
they lose tonight. It's over. They ain't gonna have anybody for the rest of the season to show up to games.
If I had to say anything, finally, I would say I'm concerned. I'm a little worried. I know that whenever one of the teams in this rivalry is doing extremely well, the other team just plays beyond their
level.
normal level of
Yeah,
talent,
yeah.
right? Even when the Falcons were, almost unstoppable and nobody can beat them, nobody can stop them, the Saints, were able to kind of bring them down a little bit. And so I feel like,
2012, great example.
right,
Yeah.
right, and I feel like that's kind of where that is, right? Where generally the nemesis is always able to kind of find your weakest points. I feel like, and I love Kamara, and I think he's going to be excellent. He's been phenomenal, right? The speed of the Atlanta defenses may be able to neutralize him a little bit, and I don't know if that's something that's been plaguing my mind a little bit, right? Now, they're not always smart or in the right place or doing the exact right thing, but their speed will make somewhat neutralize him, and that's kind of been my thing. And so I'm concerned a little bit, especially with not having the power punch of Ingram if he's not there tonight.
Right.
And so
At least as a decoy.
yeah, and that's been my major issue. So if I have any final few, it's like, come on, Saints, please. Get past all the things that I'm seeing in my mind and give me the win tonight. And that's kind of what I would say finally.
Yeah.
All right. Anything you want to say finally to the people?
Look, I mean, I appreciate you guys having me on here.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah, no
definitely,
problem.
these guys have been great and picking me up for the airport and all that good stuff, so I really appreciate that. But, as far as this game goes tonight, I mean, look, no matter how it goes, even if the Saints do lose, it doesn't mean anything, from long term, because they'll have them, again in the next couple of weeks anyways at home on the 24th of December.
Yep.
So, I think a win tonight helps solidify a lot of things and answer a lot of questions that we might have out of this team. But at the same time, I still like the Saints. I just got a feeling about tonight that they're going to come in and they know what's at stake and they're going to deliver.
Yes,
Amen.
sir. Yes, sir.
All right, you've been listening to Debate Fuel with DJ Jeremiah, Rick Sincere, and Derek Myers. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, man.
Great day. Phenomenal day, man. I'm so happy, man. So happy, man. Y'all have a good one.